Hello everybody, this is Romer with Simply Dota, and today is daily number 11, in which we will be talking about AdmiralBulldog's beautiful Nature's Prophet play, and it's so good. It made me shed a tear. It's absolutely outstanding. But before we go ahead and talk about what makes it so outstanding and beautiful, and what gives it the ability to give people back their eyesight, when a blind man was presented a computer on which Nature's Prophet by AdmiralBulldog was being played, he suddenly could see again. We're going to talk about why that happens. Alright, let me just double check my XSplit, make sure everything's working alright. Okay, cool, let's go and jump into the game. Alrighty then. Minimize exploit. Oh, I almost closed it. That would have been pretty disastrous. What's up, guys? Alakshiki, what's up? KUGT, Kitchicken Han. Hello. Once you rat, you never go back. That's exactly true. Exactly true. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk just a little bit of the background on Nature's Prophet, AdmiralBulldog, what makes them so good at their respective roles, Nature's Prophet being a hero, AdmiralBulldog being a player of heroes, aka a Dota player. Okay, so Nature's Prophet is good because he's a very fast farmer. His mobility for split push also makes him extremely good in both the late game, the early game, mid game, all the time pretty much, because you get the late game presence with the early game farm advantage, right? Because if you can split push a lot, you get a lot of farm early game. Late game, you have that late game presence of actually posing a threat. So again, the third one is just your constant threat of split pushing when you're alive. And fourth is you have the ability to mitigate collateral damage after a team fight. Now, pretty much what I mean with that is, as we're going to see in this replay, when you lose a team fight and you have a Nature's Prophet, and the Nature's Prophet is a good, competent player like AdmiralBulldog is, then all of a sudden he starts to apply this pressure, and you have to deal with him. Or else, the first scenario is, if you don't deal with him, he gets a tower out of it, so and then you get a tower out of it, so, I mean, it's not really advantage, right? You just kind of trade, even though you won a team fight. Or two, you win the team fight, he split pushes, you have to deal with him. So then you start TPing people back to deal with him. So he doesn't get a tower, and thus sort of close that advantage that you generated. So those are the two different options that pretty much happen when you're with the Nature's Prophet. So AdmiralBulldog in particular is a really good Nature's Prophet because of the fact that he rarely dies. And if he rarely dies, that means he's going to be alive more, right? Duh. So if he's alive more, he has more of a presence, and he is able to mitigate this sort of advantage and collateral damage after a team fight more. Not to mention he's going to have more presence in the late game, and he's going to farm more because he's not going to die very often. Secondly, he has really good decision making, as we're going to see in this replay. Third, his ability to solo kill and get pickoffs is off the charts. Right? Typically, when you play a rat Dota hero like a Nature's Prophet, you want to play very passively, and you just want to split push and not really be involved too much. However, he does an insane amount of ganks in this game, as we're going to see, and I'm probably going to cry in the middle of it because it's so beautiful. However, he split pushes at the same time, which makes him so good. There's Nature's Prophet players who either split push a lot or they fight a lot. There's the occasional who do a little bit of both, but he does both beautifully and at the same time, right? And the last thing that makes him such a good player is his efficiency. Not just his farming efficiency, even though it is very true that he's really farm efficient on Nature's Prophet, but also his movement. Rower, do you prefer the Bulldog Blink Mjolnir build or the Bone 7 3 Nulls Blade Mail? Typically I don't like to just generally say things like that, but in this case I will, because the Bone 7 build is pretty dumb, I'm not gonna lie. I actually hate it with all my being. Take a sip of water. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the game here. Turn on my Dota sound maybe while I'm at it. Nice, I think I did it. I think I done did it. Okay. So we see him in the off lane this game, right? Which is of course his role, so no surprise there. Does miss his block, no big deal. And essentially what he's doing here is he's just trying to mess up the creep wave. Because when the creep wave gets messed up, it becomes unreliable and unpredictable in a few different ways, right? So now he's going to try and do the same thing. However, he gets sleeped by the Bane. So Bane's really good at dealing with those sort of creep, those heroes that sort of try to screw with the creep wave with summons, like the Lone Druid Bear and the Nature's Prophet, because you sleep it and the creeps automatically de-aggro from it. So not much screwing around is going to go on. Now notice what he's actually doing here. I failed to mention this before, but we're going to be looking at this game in 3 different ways. We're going to be looking at it in the laning stage, the mid game, and the late game. And in all 3 of those stages, we're going to look at why he's playing so well and what he's doing in regards to these points we talked about earlier. And I'm going to pull them up one more time. Those points being his ability to rarely die, his decision making, his ability to solo kill, and his efficiency with both the hero, farming, and the movement around the map. So notice what he's doing here is he's being efficient. Now you might be saying, why is he being efficient, Roro? He's going back to base for no reason. That's not efficient at all. Well, it really is, right? This is just part of being an offlaner. And this is part of being a really good offlaner, when you know you can't get anything out of the lane. When the wave is pushed up this much, Admiral Bulldog says to himself, they must be pulling. How can I deal with the pull? I don't have any mana. Although I have boots advantage, I can't really do much. I guess this guy has boots too, but that's kind of expected. So he can't do anything. He can't leech experience either, right? And he'd prefer to get both gold and experience. However, when it's pushed up this much, he can't get either. Hell, he'd be happy with just getting the gold, just the experience, but he's not going to get that. So he makes the decision to be efficient with his time. He's being efficient because he's using his time for something. The resource input output I always talk about. His resource is actually this movement here in this time, and he's using the time to get an output of a full heal. Hopefully that makes sense, because if he was here, he would just be standing here the whole time. And then he's going to get restless. Maybe he becomes more inclined to push up here, and then he just gets picked off, right? So it's all about the resource input output. What's up, Carria? How's it going? All right, now take a look at this. Nothing too out of the ordinary here, but we will see something quite significant in a second here. Now we ask ourselves, he's just going over to jungle. Is there anything really significant about that? Not really, right? Same sort of deal as before. Lane's pushed out, some good lane control. Nothing. You really don't expect anything less from Power Rangers. So he's just jungling, getting himself some well-needed levels. Now notice what he does in a second here when he hits level 2. Is he of course gets the teleport, but he starts to use it almost immediately. Let's take a look at his perspective. He starts looking around, and notice how he's 0-1 right now. As soon as he hits level 2, he exploits the ability to actually to be a global hero. Right? He starts to exploit the fact that he's a global hero all of a sudden. A global hero at level 2. That's ridiculous. Now we talked about before about how some people are either very highly involved or they farm a lot. Now he's 0-0-3 at 3 minutes, which is really, really ridiculous. Now notice how he's only 3-0. CS-wise, that is. Let's see what happens now to his farm. We'll sit on 2 times speed for now, that's fine. However, take a look, because we're still in his perspective, take a look at how he's looking around the map at all times. And he goes to base when he doesn't have mana for his TP, because the TP to him is the most important thing here. He opts to skip the Midas, and why am I still online in Steam? Hold on, guys, sorry about that. He opts to skip the Midas, and of course, once again, he uses it the second he gets it off cooldown, that being his teleportation. Of course, this is a little bit more coordinated than we're used to in pubs, because the whole team is rotating around for ganks. However, the one thing I want you to take out of this is he's using his teleport every single time it's off cooldown, or at least almost every single time it's off cooldown. Maybe give or take a few seconds here or there, but he's moving around the map entirely. Gets his treads up, gets the robe, and now this makes him sort of strong at this point, puts him in fighting shape, and again, using the teleportation to go everywhere. Right? He's farming right now. He's 1-0-4 at 6 minutes, which is pretty crazy. Level 5 at 6 minutes on the off lane, which is, again, really, really crazy. And now he's farming, 15-2. Let's take a look. If we skip through a little bit, because, again, we're going to take a look in 3 different ways. We're going to take a look in the laning stage, the mid game, and the very late game. So let's go ahead and skip to a little bit more towards the mid game. Not exactly the mid game, but maybe towards it a little bit. Let's take a look at his CS. Goes from 38 to 55, 63 to 76 at 15 minutes. How does that match up against the rest of the people in this game? Well, he's the second highest in the entire game as an offlane, opposed to the carry Viper. Now that is pretty ridiculous, if I do say so myself. So let's take a look just a little bit back here as how he jumps from right about here, where he doesn't even have his 2 staffs, 38 CS, to how he jumps to the Orchid Treads, 103 CS. How does he make this jump, this huge transition? And we're going to start it from right about here. Now take note of how he's constantly scouting with Treants. He constantly has them looking out for ganks. And this is one of the ways he doesn't die. As we move more and more towards the mid game and the late game, we take note of the fact that when he spawns Treants, at least one of them is thrown out to go scout, whereas he farms with the rest of them. He doesn't need all of them to actually farm at this point. He can afford to just throw one out to scout. Now this is where his rat senses sort of kick in, and he just bails on his teammate. That being said, he couldn't have really done anything, but once a rat, forever a rat. That's how the saying goes, at least. Now notice again, the Treant is always going somewhere, at least one. At least. He's always scouting with at least one Treant. And as the replay continues, we're gonna notice that this begins to pay off immensely. And again, the TP jumps in, but he does have to back. No big deal here. No big deal. Take a sip of water. Hello, the biggest burger. How's it going, bro? Alright, so again, the Treants Scouting, I cannot stress this enough. I actually do Treants Scouting like this too, but not nearly as good. This is really, really efficient the way he's doing this. Notice that he's not sending them out too much. Because if we were to send them out too far, for example, if we were to send out these Treants way over here, then this all of a sudden is leaving the critical area from which we can actually be ganked. It doesn't matter if we send this Treant all the way over here while we're sitting here. It only matters right about here. Because if we see them walking over here like such, I just said here a lot. If they walk around and get to about here while we're sitting there, that's enough of a heads up to actually get out of there. Whereas if we were to send these Treants way over here, then that all of a sudden opens up this area and we might miss someone on the way. You could argue that we could see more people if we sent this Treant over here. However, seeing people over here is not nearly as important. If 9 times out of 10 we can see people over here, or 10 times out of 10 we see people here with the Treants very close, opposed to seeing, like 50% more people 6 times out of 10 over here, then of course this is more important because you need to worry about your safety. Now this is key to why he never dies, or rarely ever dies. So also, after this team fight happens, I will begin to continue my also statement. Notice how he's actually TPing away now. Begins to split push. And the reason he's so mobile on this hero is he has a TP and his skill at the same time, right? The skill's maxed out, so he's 2 TP methods. Of course, you're going to prioritize this one because it has cooldown and it's free. Or shorter cooldown and this it's free, but of course you want to have both at the same time. So what I was going to say before is he's actually jumping in with his team and helping his team push. A lot of people will sort of stray towards the very deep end of just split pushing by themselves, and they won't push enough with their team. If you have these Treants, right, most of the people that do that, they really underestimate the damage Treants actually do to towers and how much you can actually push with them. If you can push that much by yourself, then imagine how much faster you could push with your team, right? At this point, all you're doing is just reclaiming gold that's yours. They're clearly stronger at this point. So all they need to do is just reclaim this gold that's theirs. Right? So make sure you're not just split pushing by yourself when you do Planer's Prophet. Make sure you're helping your team as well. So what we've noticed so far in this sort of little jump here between having absolute peasant level farm and now is that he uses his TP every time it's off cooldown. Number 2 is he's helping his team take towers. That gives him huge gold injections as well as his team. And third, he's summoning Treants all the time and scouting with them 1 or 2 at a time to make sure he doesn't die. If you don't die, you become super rich. I forgot what the actual statistic on it was, but if you don't die without any like CS, I think you get a Midas at like 13 or 14 minutes. Right? So don't die is the point I'm trying to stress here. And Attrribution Prophet being played by Admiral Bulldog he's pulling it off really, really well. And it sort of stems from the scouting he does and how well he does it with the Treants. Every time, every single time he spawns his Treants. Now again, notice how he's taking towers with his team. And because of his dual teleportation ability here, he's going to be even more excessively mobile. He can go wherever he wants on the map at this point. Now, there's a balance here that we notice between fighting with his team and letting his rat senses take over his body. He begins to fight with his team here. Now why? Let's ask ourselves why he's fighting with his team, or sorry, pushing with his team here. Simply because it's free. He knows he's not being contested because he sees these people bottom. The threat colors to him are bottom. This is a threat color to him. This is a threat color to him. And who's this over here? It's like it's like a tree. What is it? It's like a tree, guys. It's invisible. So these 2 guys right here are threat colors to him, and they're both bottom. He's vision of them. So this is free. So he's like, sure, I'm a rat. Some free cheese for me. I'll go for it. I'm gonna go ham. So that is Hemtor a rat? I think my dreams were just destroyed, actually. Anyways, I will cry about that after the daily. Oh, God. So he's just getting these towers because they're free, and he's essentially not being contested. But as soon as he sees any sort of contest coming out from the enemy team, he dips. Right? Unless you have... Like, okay, let's say it like this. This is a pretty decent rule of thumb to have if you're going to play this style. Unless you have like a 90% confidence rate in winning this sort of engagement, or if you're like 5 against 1 hero, if you see any sort of contest, just run away and start split pushing. However, don't split push stupidly. Take into consideration where they just were and their map awareness and where you're going to predict them to go. So if they're all bottom now, and we're pushing their tower and we're pushing their tier 2, what's Admiral Bulldog do? Let's see. So he starts running away and putting himself in this position here. So he sees TPs. Okay, they just use their TPs. Where can they not go now? Where can they not go? Where are they less likely to actually go? They're moving more towards top. Let's go bottom. Maybe we'll farm the jungle on the way over there. And again, the farming efficiency here stacks this camp as well while he's just farming, right? Not only is his map efficiency and the way he moves around, really, really efficient. But the way he does small little things like this, and again, the scouting with his treants comes into play here. He's constantly scouting, seeing what's going on around the map, and that's why it's difficult to kill him. So this itemization, of course, is strictly personal, but from sort of an unbiased point of view, I can say that it's maybe because they don't have very many stuns, and you can kite quite a bit with the force staff. Now, where are they less likely to go? They're pushing top. They were just bottom. They just took this tower. The wave's not pushed out that much, so they probably can't push bottom unless they just all come down here. Now what? We push out bottom. They're going to come defend it. Now we're going to go top because they were just there. Lightning won't strike the same place twice. Or does it? I don't know. I'm not a science major or anything, so... So the point is, he's being extremely efficient with how he's moving around the map at all times. So now let's see how he transitions into this late game. We're going to go right to about as soon as he gets his hex. As soon as he gets his hex here. That should be good enough. Relatively close. Shout out to everybody in the YouTube stream right now. I know it's a little bit desolate. There's a decent amount of people. There's like 10 people in there. But that's just up again because if you've lag in the Twitch stream, it's just for you. So, all right. So notice this. This is what made me shed a tear and made me cry. Let's just jump back a few times here till he actually spawned these treants that are doing his bidding for him. Right about here, let's say. Spawns these treants. Where do they go? He's bringing them with him so far. One's going out this way. He goes to buy his hex, and all the while these are scouting because he's queued them as such. Now let's pause right here. He gets his hex, sees the doom. Oopsie daisies. Sees the doom. Treants. Treants absolutely everywhere, scouting every single thing that's happening. You guys need to understand how absolutely strong this is, if not absolutely terrifying for the enemy team. The fact he's moving wards with 550 HP, that's unreal. Unreal. Right? We're going to see why it's so good to have this sort of moving ward everywhere at the same time. Right? We're going to see it. Obviously, it's a little bit self-explanatory. But look at this. As soon as he doesn't get the kill here, we're going to see this multiple times more in the actual game. When he scouts with these and then goes in for the kill with his team. Right? This is why he's so damn good at farming and killing people at the same time as well as split pushing. Let's take a look at it like this. If he's farming this camp, for example, obviously he's not on the dire, but let's say he is, just for clarity's sake. Let's say he's on the dire. He's farming this camp. He sends 2 treants, maybe one over here, maybe one, because we have our tower here, so we're not that afraid. Maybe one over, you know what, okay, let's say we don't have this tower. One over here. We have a hex. We have a force staff. If we see somebody here, we can go on them and kill them, right? As soon as we see the threat colors elsewhere on the map. However, let's say we don't see anyone there. We're content to keep farming because we know we're not under threat, because we have a freaking moving ward here. Or let's say that we see them over here, but they're not as 1, there's 5. So now what? Oh, that's easy. We can just teleport bottom because our moving freaking ward gave us intel on what's going on over here. So now we do that here. However, when we get here, we have new treants to spawn, so we can spawn them again and put one here. There's a tower here, so we put a treant here to see if they're going to teleport to the tower and try and kill us. Oh, they are? Okay, that's cool. Let's TP back here. Push this lane out a little bit. Oh, treants are off cooldown again? Cool, let's spawn the treants over here and over here. You know what I mean? When you use this sort of scouting from the treants, you're able to farm super fast because you are always aware if you're safe or not. You're able to pick people off all the time. It's like a tinker. It's like a tinker who has his own summons, right? Because if a tinker has his own summons, he can just put them somewhere and then boots of travel to it. He's the same thing. Although he can't do it on the exact creep, he can do it pretty much right beside the creep. And then he's strong because he can get these super heavy pickoffs. Then on top of that, he can split push, because again, the whole threat thing, if you're under a threat or not, he knows, man. He freaking knows. So that's why we can maybe even say he got this tower for, or sorry, we can even say he maybe got this tower for his team, this tower for his team, this tower for his team. He got 3 towers for his team. Let's say, I think he only got 2, but let's say just 3 to boost him up even more. And he's an Orchid Hex, 4 staff treads at 30 minutes with 200 CS. He hasn't died yet. And that's the reason why he hasn't died yet. So let's keep looking at how he plays this into a late game. How he sort of takes this mold of how to play with these treants and pushes it into late game. Again, going for these pickoffs because he has vision, because he has the ability to. However, he never overcommits when people are missing, like this, like this. And this guy was missing too, I think, for a second, right over here. All right. What's chat talking about? Who's in low priority? So again, split pushing because he sees people here. When you're playing a rat, you need to play like an absolute pansy. You need to be afraid of pretty much anything that moves. Right, look at this. Oh, I think I saw the tailcoat shadow of a freaking, maybe a hero or something that might have potentially been there 2 seconds ago. I'm going to force staff away. Take note of this as well. This is really cool. Sees people running away. Map awareness. This is map awareness right here. This is really good. Sees people fighting top. Take the tower. All of a sudden, they're not fighting top anymore. One TP's out and they're going away. Right? Where does he TP to, or at least try to? Right here. He might have actually second-guessed himself there and said, maybe I shouldn't do that. They're all missing. But the fact is, he knows they're backing up. If I guarantee you, 100%, if his team was moving up here as well, he would have went for that. And he's doing that literally with no downtime after farming at all. And then he second-guesses himself and says, maybe I don't want to do that. Literally no downtime for farming at all. Continues to farm. That's not a problem. Nature's Prophet has a really high skill cap because you can do this sort of stuff all the time, and you can be super efficient with your farm and your split push, and you can like never die and stuff like that, but it's hard to pull off. And this is pretty much masterful the way it's happening here. Absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. Makes me cry every time. He's second guessing himself a lot here. That's fine. And again, now he decides to fight with his team. The Ravage goes off. Double, actually. Are they going to deny him? No, he just dies. Kind of just perishes off in the background there. They actually get him here. That's unfortunate. But again, he's only died once. And at this point, he's super farmed. He's super farmed. Progressing more towards the late game here. Where is our prophet? There he is. Now, because he's so mobile, he can farm multiple things at once. Look at this. How fast he's just moving around, how fast he's getting to from one place to another because of A, the mobility item, and his inherent mobility because of his teleport. He's moving around constantly, and he's 361 CS at this point, highest net worth in the game from an offlane, which is pretty cool. The Doom was an offlane too, but now we're eclipsing the Doom, who is a built-in Midas, right? So now what we're doing is we're getting a BKB, good itemization, And we have our heavy disable, as well as our mobility escape and our extreme DPS. Now what are we doing here? Let's see what happens here. So we're pushing out this lane. I gotta actually play this to free camera in. So we're pushing out this lane with our treants everywhere. This lane's pushed out as well. And the rule of thumb is you always want your creep wave to be past the river, towards the enemy side. That's how you want to play the split push game. And we TP home BKB from a high ground position where we can just right click, where the Enchantress with the Mask of Madness is as well. And we get a good initiation here. Right, the Doom goes off. Doom's the Enchantress for some reason. And at this point we're just going ham. The DPS we're doing is insane. Right? It's insane. Now what do we do after we win a team fight? I'm actually going to go back in a second here and show you a little bit about how he mitigates collateral damage when the enemy wins a team fight. I'm going to go back after in a second when we get to the end of the game here. So now we're pushing with our team. We want to get this racks down. Cool. And while we're doing that, because we pushed out all the other lanes, we can just go straight bottom. We can suicide for this racks if necessary. However, they don't have Doom, so it looks like a one team fight regardless. Alright, cool. So we've talked about why he's so efficient with his map movement and his farming, how he never dies or rarely dies, and why he split pushes the way he does, and how he does. Just take a look at how he successfully mitigates collateral damage after a lost team fight for his team, that is. Okie dokie, here we go. Maybe we'll actually take a look at how this Rax was lost, and then we'll go back and show that. So again, he's looking around constantly. You want to be doing something with your hands while you're looking elsewhere, if that makes sense. I've talked about this before. You want to be doing multiple things at once. A little bit of an inefficient TP here. But again, 6-second cooldown, not the biggest of problems. Scouting the Roshan, making sure he knows what's going on around the map at all times. Pushing out this lane, being really safe, hugging the tree line insanely. And he's going to hide in the tree line when he sees people who are a threat to him who are missing from the map. He sees the Viper top, and they're going for the fight mid because, of course, that's the -1. Right, there's the -1 here because he was top, 4v5 guaranteed. Because there's no tower here to TP to, of course. Speed through a little bit faster here. TPing top, and this is when the rat begins. This is when you get to the point in the game, if you're the enemy, you begin to pull your own hair out, asking yourself what you did to deserve such a tragic sort of fate for your racks and for your team and for your buildings. Right? This is when you start to believe that Rat Dota is OP. But look at the Treants once again. He's scouting for his team. He knows no one is in their jungle. No one's in this area. His Treants die, sure. But where? But where, oh where are they? We still don't know. We know they're not in their jungle, so he's playing really safe because we just scouted that with Treants. And now we're pretty much in our base at this point. They can't not possibly be here. We see some bottom, now we're going top. The 2 TPs come back in. He TPs in as well. And they're trying to deal with this because, of course, like I said before, you're always trying to deal with the Nature's Prophet by TPing in, making sure he doesn't get an sort of excess or unnecessary amount of gold injection. Good Ravage, double Ravage, and it looks like this is pretty much a lost team fight for the Dire, unfortunately. Notice how he's actually fighting with his team when necessary, though. He can't be... Now, we're going to ask ourselves why that happens, right? He can't be mid, and he can't be bottom. Because, I mean, sure, you could push this out. But the way to properly play a Nature's Prophet is you need to prep the lanes. Right? You need to prepare them for actual split pushing. As well as middle. Right? Bottom and middle, you need to be preparing them prior to the actual split push. You need to prepare them. I can't talk right now, apparently. You need to prepare them for the split push, right? Because if you start split pushing from here, that's inefficient. You're not going to actually do anything. Whereas if you prepare it from bottom and mid to maybe about here or here, you can actually threaten towers and objectives that way. So he knows he can't do anything elsewhere, so he's pushing with his team. Not to mention, it looks like an already won team fight. So let's take a look at what we were gonna take a look at before, but before I got distracted. One sec. Take a sip of water. I think it's around here, maybe. Might be a little bit difficult to find, but we're going to take a look at it regardless. Maybe it was around here. We'll put it on times 8 and see if we can't find it. Essentially what happens is they team up, they meet up, the team that is, and they push mid. They lose a fight, Nature's Prophet immediately goes to another lane and starts pressuring a tower. Instead of the other team being able to just go ahead and get a tower out of it, as well as a team fight, they have to TP back, or else the Nature's Prophet gets a tower and evens out the advantage they just sort of won with a one team fight. And notice, always using the TP as soon as it's off cooldown. In a way, it's kind of like a Midas, right? It's a farm accelerator. If you don't use it when it's off cooldown, slightly inefficient. That being said, you don't have to buy your teleport. But if you don't use it, you're losing potential on what could have been. It's actually kind of lucky that he got the Ravage on the Bane. If the Bane TP'd a little bit later, maybe would have turned a little sloppy there. Alright. Anyways, guys, seems like I can't find it. Timing I had written down for it was a little bit off. So that's the end of Dota Daily number 11 stretch. Oh. Dota Daily number 11, thanks for tuning in. A little bit of a short one, actually. Only about 40 minutes. Opposed to the hour we usually run for. So, this was... Oh, man. I mislabeled this. Number 11. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you appreciated the beautiful Photoshop job I did for Admiral Bulldog on Nature's Prophet. Thank you so much for tuning in. Dame Nation Hi, Susita Kusasi, what's up? Griffith Gray. Hello, Rock Q12. Hello, hello. Biggest Burger, Carrie, yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. This was Dota Daily number 11, on which we talked about Admiral Bulldog's beautiful Nature's Prophet play, how to split push properly, how to be a rat, essentially, and how to have the Dota community hate you. Hopefully you learned the pertinent sort of functions and features of such play, and hopefully you can replicate it in your ranked games. However, don't tell anyone I told you how to do it, or I'm probably going to be receiving death threats very shortly. But regardless, I thank every single one of you for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot. And this was the Daily number 11 on how to split push. And play Nature's Prophet as beautifully as Admiral Bulldog. Amen. Rat Dota, best Dota. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST, because Dota Daily is a daily web series on how we can play Dota better. Teaching you about the things that you need to know and the things that will make you a better Dota player. So thanks again, guys. This is Roro, and I will see you later.